2023 is over for the U.S. men's national team, and it ended with a 2-1 defeat to no one less than Trinidad and Tobago. You see, a terrible result, but technically the job is done, and the team qualified to the 2024 Copa America and to the CONCACAF Nations League semifinals. Let's just say the job got done, but it was embarrassing at the same time how we got there. Hi, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to our November camp recap that we do every single week or a couple of days following a U.S. men's national team camp. We're going to do a recap of the November camp. We're going to have a special guest here, as always, Adam, USMNT Stan on Twitter, to talk about the positives, the negatives, what was good about Berhalter, what was bad about Berhalter, players that had stocks up, players that had stocks down, and much more. So you can do that in the comment section down below. Let me know 2 players that had their stocks go up this camp and 2 players that had their stocks go down this camp. And also rate Greg Berhalter from 1 to 10 this camp. We're not going to do that in the video, but we're going to do an overall analysis of what he did right and what he did wrong. And a lot of it was wrong. And obviously drop a like if you want to. I will not hold you accountable if you don't do so. With that said, let's play the intro and let's bring in Adam. Okay, everyone, we're back with another camp recap, and it's kind of funny. Obviously, you all know Adam. I don't have to introduce him once again. We've been doing this for the past, I think, 2 or 3 camps, and he's been here at the channel before. But before I even start, Adam, how are you doing outside of soccer?
Outside of soccer, man, I'm a little sick right now. Basketball season began, which is super exciting. Both coaching my kids up and watching some NBA college, and got a bunch of friends that are, all across D1, D2, D3 basketball. So it's always an exciting time just to follow them and talk to them. I actually went down to see a couple of my former players who play at Columbia play last week. So it's a fun time of year, man. Holidays coming up. Can't complain about that. I'm trying to focus on keeping those things in the front view and making sure that the USMNT stays off to the side right now. Just, at least Copa isn't next month. That's all I can say.
I'll tell you one thing. Being a USMNT fan is definitely stressful. It's been for a long time, for a while. It almost felt like when we were underdogs, it was a bit better because you had lower expectations and everything was overachieving. Now it seems like we very often, I mean, we get the job done. The job was done. You had to qualify to the Copa America and advance to the semifinals, but it always seems to be it doesn't convince us. It doesn't really, it always feels like we underperform lately. And it's been like that for a long time. And we're going to talk about that today.
The biggest results in the Berhalter tenure, and I know we'll get here, the biggest results. What are the biggest results? Let me ask you that, actually. If you could think about the biggest
0-0 draw with England, that was a big result, but I think it was more like Southgate playing down to our level.
So a draw, forget about even coaching. So a draw, okay.
Beating Mexico, that apparently everyone beats these days.
And the Mexico wins, right? Which I don't know what that means anymore, given kind of the state of their program. I just don't know what that means. And the away Mexico result, 0-0 draw. I don't know. It's not like we haven't won at Azteca. We didn't go win in Costa Rica. We didn't go beat England in a World Cup. We didn't go beat Netherlands in a World Cup. People have given Berhalter so much credit. And I've given him credit for some things that he's done well along the journey. But overall, what has he done? I just don't, what can you point to that's here is something super impressive that he's done. It would be the Mexico wins. That's it, I guess. But
they're going to bring up recruiting dual nationals, but it goes back to, yes, that is part of his work. But then it comes back to, would other coaches not have done it as well? Probably, because Sergiño Dest, for example, he was already through our youth ranks. Balogun, sure. I know Berhalter played a big role because he was in touch with Balogun for a long time, but it was still closed when he wasn't around. So someone else was able to close it. So yes, of course, he was the one in charge when a lot of that happened.
I'll give him full credit for that. And if that is somebody's response, I'll say that's a good one. Cool. Your biggest accomplishment is not on the field. That's rough. If that's what you're going to sell me, you've been in charge of the program for over 4 years. Your biggest accomplishment is not on the field. It's who you've gotten in the program. And awesome. Thanks for that. I've given him a ton of credit for that. But at this point in time, we need to start to get results on the field, right? It can't be about the dual not recruiting anymore.
No, they'll counter by saying he got the job done for the most part, which again, goes back to his results are always achieving the bare minimum. He does the bare minimum, like what you need to achieve, like qualify to the World Cups. Like, was not qualifying really an option with this team? Oh, he got out of his group. It's like it was Wales and Iran. And sure, it was like we didn't beat Wales, which to me that was embarrassing. We should have beat Wales, and then just got ran over by the Dutch. Like the Dutch were better than us, and it didn't seem like they really pushed it. And every time they pushed it, they scored. That's literally what the way it felt. Mexico, we talk, but let's talk about the camp because it's not just about Berhalter. I'm going to talk about the players because there were a lot of negatives for the players as well, individual performances that have nothing to do with Greg Berhalter, and we need to address those too because this has to change. I'm sure it will. I hope it will. And we'll go through it. But this is how we want to structure this episode. We're going to go through 2 positives of the camp, 2 negatives, then 2 players with the stocks up, 2 players with their stocks down. Then we're going to quickly go through Berhalter, even though we kind of talked about it a little bit, but maybe we'll go a bit in details. And now that we're qualified to the Copa America, why don't we close the episode by talking about, based on what we're seeing, what do we want and what do we expect? Because there's a difference between wanting and expecting. Like, I want a semifinals run, possibly a final, pulling a major upset, but expectations are not quite that right now. But we'll get to that later in the episode. 2 positives. Since you're the guest, I'll let you go first. Give me 1 positive from this camp.
Thanks, Tack. I think Ricardo Pepi was a positive. When I think of the player performances, I think one of the big question marks is like, okay, Balogun is kind of taking a starting spot. How's he going to respond here? How's he going to respond for club? He's not starting. And he seems just really resilient and persistent. And I'll go all the way back to the World Cup and him being left off the World Cup roster. There's a lot of different ways to respond to that. Some people shut down. Some people don't respond well to that. And I love the mindset that the kid has. We don't know exactly where he's going to go, to what level he's going to get to as a player. I've been pretty skeptical if he'll ever get to the level Balogun is already at or is going to get to. That's just how I feel personally. I think a lot of people disagree with that. But whether or not he does or doesn't, it doesn't matter. Having a mindset of like resiliency, I'm going to come in and make an impact. You don't start me for whatever it is, 8 straight games. You're still going to get the best of me when I come on the field. And I love that. I love the energy he brings. Honestly, like, thank God we have him because, I know we scored 3 at the end of that game, but you got to score the first one to score 3, which we know, right? In a game like that where it's a slog, somebody's got to open the scoring. And I give him a ton of credit for that goal. That was the biggest goal of the window. And it really set the stage. If he doesn't score that goal, we might be sitting here talking about totally different things, Tack. I truly believe that.
I agree with you because that game was going down a path where it was probably going to end 0-0 or maybe a late 1-0 win if we scored later in the game. And then all of a sudden, we're either qualifying on away goals or going to penalty kicks or worse, getting eliminated, which would be...
it changes the whole tenor of it, right? Like going away only up 1-0 or 0-0, the pressure that now builds is totally different than what we faced yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. And that Pepi goal certainly just relieved a little bit of that pressure in that game. It allowed us to go get 2 more. And then it totally released the pressure, even through all the BS that I'm sure we'll talk about. We still never fully got to the point where it was like I looked up and it was like, oh, it's 2-1. Ooh, if they score 2 more. And I'm like, well, wait, if they score 2 more, we still go through. I was like, oh, okay, like we're in a pretty good spot here. Like,
we also got lucky. We also got lucky that Trinidad clearly gassed out in both games towards the last 20 to 15 minutes. And that comes down to the fact that a lot of these players are like more towards like the semi-pro level than the professional level. We were making a joke when we were at Austin at the game. 2 of their players looked overweight for a professional athlete. Right. They looked like they were in like my shape. Like my shape is not in shape for a professional athlete. Like I'm not calling them fat. They're not fat. Like they're all like in a very good shape for the average human. But again, you're talking about a professional athlete. And I'm going to get my 2 positives out right out of the way because one of them, I technically shouldn't even be allowed to use it as a positive, but I'll use it. I think a positive is we qualified to the Copa America, which not qualifying would have been a disaster. So I'm going to put that as a positive, and I don't have to explain why. It's just like we got there, and we have to get there. We're also hosting the competition. The other positive I have is as much as we bash on Berhalter, and we're going to get to Berhalter very soon because there's a lot of criticism to get towards him, is I appreciate the fact that he tried a different formation when we didn't have our starting wingers. He didn't persist on the well, he did a little bit persist on it, but for the second game, he changed it up because it didn't work too well in the first game of just playing the 4-3-3. He's like, we don't have Christian Pulisic, we don't have Weah, let's just put someone there, and they'll probably perform. It's like, it won't happen. So he tried a formation with 2 up top. I don't have a defined opinion on whether it will work or not. I think the red card was a pivotal moment and kind of changed. I think we were doing all right. We were doing fine until the red card. So I'm not sure what
we were doing pretty well. I mean, I think a lot of people will see the last 60 minutes of that game and kind of forget, but like Brendan Aaronson missed a easy layoff pass to Pepi that should have been a goal.
Yeah,
like, that was a easy. Like, I saw it in live time. I was like, drop it, and even his shot, he could have scored. He could have scored.
Brendan Aaronson.
Mallow missed a couple opportunities. Like, I'm not saying, I don't know. It felt like a game at that point. It was like, oh, we're gonna win this 3-4-0. Like, we just are. That's how it felt. And I thought I thought Berhalter, to your point, had set us up well in this game.
The problem with Berhalter in this game, which I think we're going to talk more about later, and so I'm not going to dive into it in details, is unexpected things not unexpected. Sure. Things that you don't want to happen can happen. Red cards are fairly common in soccer. It happens quite often. And not having a plan for a situation like that. Okay, what if we go man down? And it just seemed like he didn't really know how to react to that moment. I would have done something different.
He gets plan A wrong an okay amount. He gets it right a lot too. But plan A was good today, right?
Plan A was good. He had no plan B.
I don't have much time for anyone says that plan A wasn't good today. It was good. Like, we were rolling. We weren't giving up chances. We had all the chances. We were up 1-0. We could have been up 2 or 3-0 in my opinion. And I thought we were only going to grow into that system more and figure it out more. We were kind of figuring out as we were going along, and they clearly hadn't played in it much, which is totally fine as well.
But the issue was the in-game management. We're going to talk about the issues later, but it was the in-game management, because unexpected things or things that go out of your control happen. How the team reacts, how the coach reacts matter as much as plan A. Plan A was great. Good plan A was working. The game was under control. But again, in-game management is equally as important because, things happen in the game. So lastly, give us your second positive in this camp. Yeah.
I thought Jedi was a positive. I thought he was really good in both games. I thought he contributed, obviously, to the first goal. That's similar to the Pepi thing. I think he was just putting a lot of pressure on them wide when we started to, I think, build out wider in the second half, which was smart against a team that was narrow and compact. We started doing that, and I thought he had a lot of impact, right? And I even think things like as simple as his touch.
Oh, 2 goals, I meant. Scored 2 goals.
He scored 2. Yeah. And he assisted, I think, on the Pepi goal, right? And there was a huge goal today as well to open the scoring. So all that's great. But even something as simple as, I just felt like his touch was better. His passing was better. He wasn't making as many boneheaded errors as he sometimes does on ball. He's not the most technical player at times. And I even saw him better in that regard. His passing was better. So I thought he was a positive. Pepi and Jedi, I went with 2 players in this camp that kind of impressed me the most in terms of, not necessarily relative to where they always are, but just I thought they were kind of linchpins for us.
Okay, so let's go to the negatives there. Jedi was obviously a positive, 2 strong performances. I still think there's a lot of technical limitations in regards to Jedi, but he's clearly our best left back. I don't think anyone's close right now to Jedi, and he's a big reason we qualified. Like you said, 2 goals, 1 assist. I mean, we scored 4 goals. That means 3 out of 4, it was him directly involved. There you go. But including that goal for Pepi that you said, that was probably the most important goal this camp. That goal, the Pepi one, he was the one that got the assist. But going on, 2 negatives. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first with the first one? What do you prefer?
I'll let you go first. I've got one big one that might just be 2 things rolled into one. So you go first, and then I'll do the 2 in 1 like you did.
I want to, so I'm going to skip one of the ones I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about how I don't want to call our players soft the same way Hurt Gomez said it once, or even Berhalter soft. But this team does give me a lot of vibes of just a weak mentality. When push comes to shove, things don't go their way, we crumble. Happened in the World Cup against the Dutch, for example. Things weren't going our way. It just seems like this team can't really grind out results at times. And unfortunately, we're not the best team in the world. We're not a top 10 team in the world. So if we want to achieve anything special in the Copa America, the World Cup, or even not even a deep run, just a semi-deep run, like a quarterfinals run, you will have to find a way to grind out results when there's adversity, when you're playing man down, when you're playing against a superior team. And throughout Berhalter's entire cycle, and in this one again, I haven't seen this team be able to grind out results, even against Trinidad and Tobago in this camp. A weaker opponent, adversity came up. It's like playing away, man down, but you're still up 1-0. So in my head, I was like, figure it out. Like, you can still win this. It's not like you're playing France man down. That's like, holy crap, just try not to lose by a lot. You're playing Trinidad. You're still man up. And it's a mix of the player's mentality. It's a mix of Berhalter's mentality, Berhalter's in-game management. Uh, there's no excuse for what Dest did that really screwed over the team. But I was very curious towards how we would react to that. And we have failed the way we reacted. It was very poor. It seemed like we were soft. We crumbled against, seriously, a team that's not good. Like, it's different if you're man down against a world-class team and you're like, holy, even though I would like to see us be able to grind it out against teams like that, or at least put up a fight against a team like that, which we didn't against Germany. We talked about that in the last video when we did the recap. I didn't see that. And to me, that shows a weak mentality. Can that change? Maybe sometimes one player, that's all it takes. One player to fire up the team, like a Clint Dempsey or Jermaine Jones. I made a joke about, like, we need a lunatic in this team. I'm not calling them crazy, but you get what I'm saying. Like a crazy guy on the field that will just fire everyone up. We saw the so-called leaders like Tim Ream and Turner call out Dest on the field. I saw mixed reactions towards that. I think, yes, as a leader, you do have to call him out. But regardless of that, what we do after is more important. And it didn't seem like those leaders, including Matt Turner, made a big mistake in the second goal. Didn't seem like they were able to push these players forward. There was no leadership there. For all they talk about, like Berhalter built a leadership council whatsoever, I didn't see that. I just didn't see it. I saw a team that looked weak, scared, unprepared for adversity. And if we scored another goal, we would have won 3-4-0. But if as soon as Trinidad scored, we were just fighting for our lives in the second half. And if Trinidad didn't gas out, or that player number 9 didn't miss a one-on-one with Turner, for example, with a very weak shot because he was gassed out, who the heck knows what would have happened? And this is not a good team. So again, the mentality to me was a major negative. Again, a confirmation of what we already feared. And it does leave me concerned for the future.
I'll say the one thing that, and I don't know if we have firm answers to this yet, but the heartbeat of this team, right, this program, is multiple guys. I think it's been Pulisic. Maybe not. He's become more verbal, but I think certainly we rally around, his energy a lot. I think Weston, I think Tyler Adams, and I think the one common denominator there is none of those guys were on the field, right? And I don't think, for me, it doesn't excuse it.
We crumbled with all of them against the Dutch.
Like I said, I think it's a bit unproven, right? Like, would we have reacted the same way if those guys are on the field? To me, it's an unknown. There's a much better chance that we have better energy and better life when you have at least a couple better leaders on the field, right? To your point, I have no issue with ripping the player who totally does a dumb thing, but at least like transfer the energy, right, Ream, from ripping a guy who makes a really boneheaded error to now rallying your troops, right, and getting your guys together. And I don't know, and there's some unknowns in sports. I think we, as fans, when we analyze it, we can make guesses if we want. Even coaches, like being on the inside and coaching in the past for myself, I still don't have the answers. Sometimes it's just intangible, and you have to kind of take a guess. And here's what I'm kind of talking about, right? Like this is my first, negative or concern. We got punched in the mouth with the red card, right? It was a punch.
We punched ourselves.
And there's we punched ourselves for sure. There's a really, famous boxing saying, right? Like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And I think this is where this team and Berhalter, right, to just expand on your point a little bit, this is where we fail most common, right, is when we get punched in the mouth. Maybe it's because we didn't set ourselves up tactically the correct way. The other team's doing something unexpected. And boom, we get punched in the mouth with an early goal, or we're not creating chances, but there's controversy, right? We get punched in the mouth. How quickly and how well you respond to that as a boxer is everything, right? When you get punched and you get knocked down that first time, fight's either over or you're going to rally back. And our ability to rally back either takes, in my opinion, way too long to figure out the plan, to get more fight and energy from the players, to bring people together and, rally the troops. And when I said before, I don't know which of these actually is the most important thing. It's probably a combination of all of them, right? Like, can you tactically adjust and put your guys in good spots? Can the players Mindset B, nah, F this. Let's get it right now. Bring it together, boys, right? Yeah, we got 10 on the field. They're not getting a single shot on goal. Let's go, right? I didn't see that. I didn't see the tactics, and I didn't see on field. I didn't see the players rallying, right? And so everybody has a plan. When you get punched in the mouth, which is going to happen all the time, how do you adjust, right? And this is kind of where I go back to what I've said for years now with Greg specifically, is plan A sometimes is good, right? When the game state changes and he has to shift to plan B, it's a massive weakness.
Can
right?
I add one thing to that?
Hold on, let me say the other one, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Or sometimes plan A is no good, which is what we saw in game 1 against Trinidad, and it takes way too long to figure out what plan B is, right? We sit in the same plan A for like 45 minutes. It's like we got to be able to make an adjustment mid-half when the narrow 4-2-2-2 thing that he was trying wasn't working. We can't wait till halftime. So, because sometimes against a good team, you wait till halftime and you're down 2-0 and the game's over. So we got to be able to adjust quicker.
I think in terms of in-game management, and then I don't know Berhalter personally, but it's either he overthinks too much and before he makes a reaction, he thinks about it like for 10 minutes before he actually reacts, or he has a bad feel for the game. Because a lot of the coaches, sure, you can use data, you can use advanced analytics, but a lot of what's happening in the game, you have to act upon your gut. It's like, this is like, because sure, like plan A, you can plan, use advanced analytics, use data. You have a lot of time to think. During the game, like 2 or 3 minutes might be what kill you. 2 or 3 minutes. So you have to really just go have a feel for the game. It's like, boom, change it right there. Trust your guts, and hopefully it works. And I want to use an example, and you guys can probably see here in the back, Palmeiras right here, because the coach for Palmeiras, Abel Ferreira, and I'm using it as an example because it's a team I follow very closely. He has that, the feel for the game. So I see that every game. He makes mistakes. Don't get me wrong. All coaches do. But the guy's like not afraid of making a change at the 30th minute if he has to in the game in the first half. If he feels like things, it's a different way of seeing it. And I think one thing Americans might have seen was when Palmeiras played Chelsea in the Club World Cup. Palmeiras was just defending, trying to make it scrappy for Chelsea, and then Chelsea scored. And then you're like, oh crap, like now it's over. But then Palmeiras was able to pull a goal. When they pulled a goal, Chelsea kind of like seemed a bit shook. It's like, holy crap, it took us forever to break that low block. And then when we do, they score right after. You know what Abel Ferreira did for Palmeiras? He switched. He started to press the living heck out of Chelsea to try to get a second goal. And Palmeiras almost scored multiple times. Unfortunately, they lost with a penalty kick on extra time. But that's a coach that had a feel like they got punched. They're somewhat down. Let's go all in. Not saying that's what we should have done against Trinidad yesterday because we got punched. But it's like how you react, how you adapt. And that goes a bit beyond the players because the players will try to follow the instructions of Berhalter, as honestly most of them should. Like, that's your coach. He has a plan. Trust his plan. But it doesn't seem like...
Let me. I just want to add one more thing because, you talked about the Palmeiras coach. Like, I would bet you a lot of money, actually. I'm not saying that he makes zero decisions on the fly, but I would bet you if he is an elite coach, right? And when I coached, one of my favorite things to do is I would go down and get into, different high-level basketball practices, football practices. I would go to the Celtics training camp, the Nets training camp, and I would just try and be around different level guys. I would go to American football practices, and I would try to like talk to the coaches if I could. Some would talk to you for an hour. I spent 8 hours one time with a Division I head coach. Others will talk to you for 10 minutes, right? But I would try and ask questions and talk and just learn, right? Like, what's your process? What do you do? And something that I learned that almost exclusively the best coaches do is they have a plan A, but then they've almost like gamed out, not game by game, but just season by season. They've gamed out all the scenarios they need to think about, right? Soccer is, yes, a complex game, but like if we really think about it, Tack, it's like, what are all the gameplay scenarios? I'm down goals and the team is doing this to us. I'm up and the team's doing this. We get a red card and we have to go back to 10 men. We get a red card and we're down. What are we going to do? We get a red card.
I like that you said that. I like that you said that because the Palmeiras coach, actually, there was a Libertadores, the Champions League of South America knockout rounds against Atlético Mineiro, where Palmeiras got 2 red cards every time, and they went through. Every time that happened, he immediately made a change. It seemed, and then after the game, they asked him. He said he has like notes there. He has a different plan for multiple different scenarios that him with his coaching staff they imagine. And of course, like you said, sometimes it can be something like, crap, we didn't imagine this. But if you have like 20 different scenarios, the odds of it being one of them is pretty high. And if it's not, it might be close enough where you have a plan to react quick. It's like right away. And your players already are somewhat prepared for that. While we seem to be like completely shook. It's like, oh crap, we got a red card? The heck do we do now? It's
and
like
that's like a simple one, right? Like
yes.
in two games, right? In 2 games, it's like, what happens if they get a red card and we're up?
And it was a defender that got a red card, which is more likely.
Yeah, and then what? So like 2 games you saw it. What happens if they get a red card and we're up a man? And then what happens if we get a red card and we're down a man? How do we react? To me, in both those scenarios, we failed. Like we didn't take advantage of the 10 men at all. They eventually got tired, and in the 83rd minute we scored. But like we weren't like creating chance over chance over chance. You know, we created some okay chances in the second, but like I don't know. I didn't think we were very well prepared at all for playing against 10, and then we weren't prepared at all to play with 10, right? And then just even the simple in-game thing, like, oh, we have 10 men. We know that we need to get, you know, if we have 2 strikers in, we need to take an attacker out. We need to make sure our midfield is really solid. We need to make sure we replace a defender if it's a defense. Like just, it's honestly simple, like grade school soccer coaching. That's like not complex stuff, right? So I go back, I know we've talked about it for a while, but how are you going to react when you get punched in the mouth, right? And what my actual hope is that you're not reacting, that you're responding. And responding means we've got a bunch of different scenarios that we've already gamed out. We've thought about these. Here's the scenario we're in, boys. Let's do it, right? We're making these subs. Here's how we're going to handle this scenario. Oh, they're pressing us. We weren't expecting it. Hey, guys, at the 10-minute mark, make these adjustments, right? I can on the field send to my players how we're going to react now that we're getting pressed, and maybe we didn't think we were going to get pressed, right? Simple stuff that's, I think, doable. I just don't have much faith that this staff and this team are going to get it done as currently constituted.
There's not much evidence of it getting it done. That's the problem. That's the reason for your pessimism and and why many fans are pessimistic about it. It's just there's no evidence of that. And yes, there's a lot on Berhalter, there's a lot on the players, but sometimes you need new leadership to shake things up. That's what we were constantly saying. I know they're not going to fire Berhalter. Their whole argument is going to be he got the job done. And for all we care, we're going to be playing the CONCACAF Nations League at home, the semifinals and final. Mexico, like we're recording this before Mexico plays Honduras. They might not even be there. We're probably going to win it, like because there's just such a big talent gap, and we're going to be playing at home. And the argument's going to be he got the job done, but we just don't see that progress. So just to wrap things up on the negatives, I kind of gave both of mine. One was the weak mentality and Berhalter's in-game management. But it feels like every camp, or like we talk about Berhalter's in-game management like forever, the reaction. We talked about it last cycle. So those are my 2 negatives. Did you give your second one already?
Here's my second one, right? And this is going to be kind of where I'm going to start to stand. I'm not going to stop being critical of the coaching and the tactics, but I think at this point in time, it reminds me of my senior year in college, right? Our coach wasn't tactically strong. He was a great guy in a lot of ways, but he wasn't very tactically strong. And our team pretty much blamed our failures on that. And just kind of were like, well, our coach, isn't coaching us well enough. And I actually think that was a really, really poor mindset by us as players. That was weakness as players, in my opinion, right? So our players, okay, your coach has limitations. Most coaches have limitations, honestly, right? We're kind of figuring out, we know what these coaches' limitations are. So now as players and as a team, how can we just make sure that our mentality is so elite that it can make up for it, right? Because to your point, I don't even really care what the tactics were. If our mentality was elite in that Trinidad game, we could have been set up terribly against 10 and have 10 men. We still shouldn't be giving up chances. Like we still shouldn't be fouling guys outside the box and giving up shots at the 10 yards out. Like, so I want our players, and to me, this is like a concern and also a call to action. I want our players to start to gain a mindset. Berhalter is going to be the coach till the next World Cup. We can whine about it, cry about it all we want. I don't know if they even do that internally. Who knows? But they need to develop an elite mindset that can overcome some of the shortcomings that are going to happen tactically for us in the next 3 years. They just are. So come on, boys, like develop an elite mindset, become elite mentally, have great leadership on the field, and it can make a difference in some big matches.
Yeah, I agree with that. That goes back to what we were saying. We can also blame Berhalter all we want. There's a lot the players can do better. A lot that they can do better. That's only one of them. It's not Berhalter's fault that Sergiño Dest acted like a child.
And I just neither of us mentioned Serge. It's so obviously the biggest negative of this camp, in my opinion, that I didn't even want to throw it out there. I figured maybe you would. You might have figured maybe I
Well,
would.
I'm gonna put it on the players, like the
Okay,
stock down, stock up. We'll talk about it.
Okay, it's 1A though. Like some people might be watching this video being like, they didn't mention Sergiño Dest. Like,
No, we're
it is
mentioning
so
soon.
obviously 1A for anyone watching. Like, it was so boneheaded, so stupid. It's also been the predominant dialogue. I kind of wanted to talk about other stuff, but it is 1A.
Because it's one that we all agree upon. Like, no one disagree. I mean, sure, some people are saying ban him from the national. I'm strictly against that. But like saying that he is the main, he's not the only reason, but he is the main reason we lost. For sure. Let's go to the next one here. Players with 2 players that their stock went up, and then we'll go through 2 players that their stock went down. So I have a few written down for stock up, and we'll do it this way. Do you prefer to give your first 2 stock up and then I go after, and then on the stock down, I go first? Because the odds of us giving the same player is pretty high.
You go first for the stock ups. I kind of already gave my stock ups. I'll try and think of at least one more, but my positives were kind of my stock ups, but I'll think of one more while you go.
Okay. And everyone, keep in mind, we're just doing 2, so we might miss a few players that were stock up and stock down. You can leave it in the comment section down below. It's not that we're forgetting the player, it's just that we're capping it at 2. Otherwise, we'll talk about every single player. So my 2, one is pretty easy. It's A-Rob. Very easy. Probably, like, based on the stats and based on what the productivity he had, we probably wouldn't have gone through without him. It's like involved in 3 goals directly, 2 goals, 1 assist, and looked fairly reliable for the most part defensively. I did see in the game in Austin, Tim Ream has a good reading of the game of covering for A-Rob when he fails to intercept. Regardless, very good camp from A-Rob. The thing is, we're going to say, how did his stock go up? Because he was already clearly the number 1. Well, I think he just consolidated even more. Some people were already talking about Christopher Lund challenging him or whatever. It's like, if anything, this camp just consolidated him more than he already was. Not saying he's perfect. There's a lot of technical limitations there, but no one gets close. My second stocks up actually is McKennie, Weston McKennie, which it's weird because very often here and there we'll see some takes of like, oh, if Tyler Adams is back, it's going to be Tyler, Musa, and Gio, or maybe McKennie will start, or maybe there's for some reason he's not seen as a locked-in starter. But I almost put him at the same category as like a Christian Pulisic, like Gio Reyna nowadays. We're seeing how important Gio Reyna is to that midfield, how much we lost. Like, we didn't just lose with Dest's red card. It's like the absence of Gio was pretty freaking big there in the midfield, just in controlling the tempo of the midfield possession. But McKennie is crucial for a couple reasons. One, I just think he is one of our best midfielders. I think he's a better player than Yunus Musa, to be quite frank. And McKennie, he's not a Clint Dempsey or a Jermaine Jones in terms of the mentality of like firing people up. But in the game in Austin, I would argue that he was probably one of the only players that was really pushing us. Like, let's go, let's get it done. Like, actually taking some initiative. And maybe if we had 2 or 3 more of those, it would have been a bit different. And let's not forget that he was the one that drew the red card against Trinidad, which was a massive game changer. And we missed him on this game. I think we missed McKennie quite a bit, especially with De La Torre, with a terrible performance from Luca De La Torre. And Musa is very talented, very good, but also very passive. Musa plays, I've noticed this, he plays to the level that the team plays. If the team plays well, Musa steps it up. But when we play poorly, he's just kind of there. He doesn't play poorly by any means. He's just kind of there. Doesn't really step up. McKennie does step up. I think his stocks went up. I think McKennie, unless something happens in terms of injury or him being in shape, that's been a concern in the past. I think he has to move to stock up to locked-in starter. I think people downplay his importance to this team from a mental aspect and just ability aspect of the game. And sure, there are concerns in terms of him being immature at times, but I think McKennie, from the player we've seen a couple years ago, he has matured quite a bit. And I want to praise him for that. So that would be my stocks up. A-Rob and Wes.
Wes is a dog, man. Like, and listen, like when you're in a clean, beautiful game, like we were trying to make it for the first 30 yesterday, he's still important because he's a great passer. And I think he does some things that people underrate. But man, when it becomes a dogfight and you need like dogs, like he's going to be the leader of the pack. Right. And like you said, like in a game like England, Musa's going to come along. If you got Wes next to you and he's going to be a dog, Musa's like, all right, I'll be a dog too. Right. But yesterday, we needed Musa to be the dog, right? Like we needed him to be like, come follow me, Luca. Come follow, right? And he just wasn't that. So yeah. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. My stock ups were Jedi and Pepi for similar reasons to what I said in the positives. Who I think his stock from a USMNT standpoint continues to rise game over game. We're starting to see that he, I think, is a legit backup 9 for sure. I still have Ballo as my starter, but like, listen, they're young players. Can he challenge him over time? I hope so. That's better for your program, right? And Pepi is a legit guy that you can bring off the bench to get a goal right now. And I think that's massive for us. And he's, I think, really solidified himself as like a reliable guy in that role, which is really nice. And then Jedi, for all the same reasons you said and that I said earlier, it's hard to find like true stock ups in this camp, just being honest. Like a real stock up is like, man, like I think about them differently than I used to. These would be the two that were closest to me. You know, a very small stock up was, I thought Tillman did a really nice job coming into that game yesterday. He should have come in way earlier. I thought we had far more control of the midfield with him in the game. And once again, this is what a lot of people don't always understand, is your control of the game when you're down and struggling. It isn't always bringing in a defender, right, or a defensive-minded player. Sometimes it's just somebody who's solid on the ball, right? Bringing guys in who can control the ball and aren't panicky on it. It's the reason why people are always like, well, if we're up, we'd take Gio out. I'm like, why the hell would you take Gio out if we're up? We have command of the game with him in the midfield, right? Like, I'm not putting him at the 6, but like, so, and Tillman did a little bit of that last night. If you watch that last 10, 15 minutes back, I thought he had a really nice command of the game in the midfield. So after having a pretty poor game 1, I'd put him as a small stock up in game 2.
Yeah, I think, like, I know Berhalter took Gio out because he was going to come off at halftime anyway. That's what Berhalter said. But you could have still kept him all the way till halftime and then replaced him with Tillman, which would have been 6 for half a dozen, not in terms of ability, but in terms of style of play. And you could have
Scally for a 9. Scally for a 9 was the move. And then if you want to take Gio out for Tillman, a like for like.
At halftime.
You never give you. We just ceded control of the midfield. We haven't talked about that, Tack, but like we totally ceded control of the midfield because we just didn't have enough players there. Like Ballo and Pepi aren't dropping back into that spot. Like it was so weird. The disconnect between like our front line and our back line with 10 men was vast. And all of a sudden you saw Trinidad dominating the midfield. And it was like, why is this happening? Like, come on.
And the priority for the first half, because what happens is when we got punched in the mouth, like you said, the priority for that first half should have been, okay, let's just go to halftime to 1-0 lead and like figure it out in the locker room. So that should have been it. Take out a 9. Gio, continue to control the midfield. Let's hold on to this 1-0. Instead, he didn't do that. It was a very weird sub. We conceded a goal. So Trinidad all of a sudden went to the locker room hyped, and we were confused. And we came back with no plan, and then the rest, you know what happened. Let's go to the stocks down, which this one's the easiest one of the video. Stocks down. I'll let you actually go first because you let me go first on the stocks up.
I'm going to skip Dest again. If you want to do them, you can. I mean,
no, I'm skipping Dest because it's too obvious.
I'll make one more point on Dest. Like, this is his second red card in the calendar year. Mm-hmm. And it's his second red card that is like pretty unneeded. Like, at least the Mexico thing was like a fight and like, you know, you're kind of getting into it.
He could have walked away though. He could have walked away.
Exactly. Like he could have walked away long before he got the red. And like, I'm just going to say it's a stock down, not because I think we should like replace him or take away his opportunities, but I do think a message needs to be sent that like, this is unacceptable. You can't do this in a Copa America semi. Do you not think that's going to be an emotional game? Do you not think that's going to be emotionally charged if we get there and we're playing against another team? Do you not think a World Cup knockout game is emotionally charged and people aren't going to try and get under your skin and people aren't going to try, especially if they know you have a reputation? And right now, I just don't have a lot of trust in him. I've trusted him as a soccer player, but my trust that he's not going to like blow up for random reasons once every 10 games.
Because also there's a difference between how you get the red card. If he's like the last man trying to stop a goal, it's like, it's like, dude, he had to do it. But one thing is to you just like to blast the ball into the stands because of a silly throw-in call. The other one, the Mexican players, sure, they shoved him. You know what you do? Put your hands up like I didn't touch him. Walk away. Let him do it. You don't have to be the tough guy. Like the goal there is not to be the tough guy like Tyler Adams was doing in the Premier League. The goal there is to represent your team well, win the games, and not, you know.
The Mexico thing, we were dominating the game. We were up. Just like point to the scoreboard.
We had a final to play.
Of course they want you to get a red right there. Of course they're trying to bait you into it, like, so anyway, my trust, I'll just say, like, I think as a community, our trust in him should be down, because, like, if this is going to be the guy we're playing in big matches, he needs to gain the trust back in all of us and his teammates and his coaches that he's going to be mentally solid in those moments, right? Those aren't going to be easy moments to stay poised in. Yeah. So we'll skip him. We know he's the biggest. Yeah. My two, there's a lot of ways you can go with this. I think Matt Turner's game yesterday is the first one where I really have felt like he was extremely poor, and not just letting up the goal. I just thought it's been a rough stretch from him since he got his starting spot taken, right, with club, and he just doesn't look like the same, commanding presence back there. And I don't know. So my stock's a little bit down on Turner. I don't see anybody around the corner that we're going to put in for him right now, just being honest, but stock down on him. My second stock down that I just want to call out is Paredes. And it's not a stock down on his career or his long-term projection. But in terms of immediate impact and like what kind of immediate impact he can have, I'd say my stock is down a little bit on him. And I wouldn't even necessarily say that he's like out and let's not give him any more chances in the near term. But in big time games right now, like it would be friendlies for me, right? It would be, are there any friendly windows we can get him in to get him more comfortable and acclimated to the club?
Yeah, I think Matt Turner, the reason his stock is not super down is because there's no one really challenging him right now. Otherwise, you probably would have been saying, if there was another goalkeeper catching good form, playing for a good club in a good league, you probably would have been saying, hey, maybe it's time for us to test someone else. So he'll remain the starting goalkeeper right now because there's really no other options. And he's been very reliable for us in the past when it comes to shot stopping. But if you need him to play as a sweeper keeper, doesn't work. Not very commanding, silly mistakes. That second goal was just horrible. The first goal, sure, they were saying he slipped, so give him a pass on that one, even though he was aware of the field conditions. So you got to be focused and why. But okay, not his fault. But the second goal was 100% his fault. The goal scored by Alvin Jones.
I might be misremembering, but I just don't remember like a lot of those big XG bump saves, right? Where it's like high XG and Turner takes it away, like I just haven't, I might be off, but I just can't recall. Like there was nothing like that in the Germany game. I know that as a fact. I was there. Like there was nothing like that, obviously, in the following game, the Ghana game, because there just weren't opportunities. Like, so I don't know. Maybe I'm missing a couple here and there, but I used to feel like, man, this guy's shot stopping is certainly saving a goal every couple games. And I don't really know if I've had that feel over the last, few windows.
Yeah, I think like when you go back to like the 2021 Copa America, not Copa America, 2021 Gold Cup, that's where you really saw Turner was like, this guy might have been our best player in the tournament, actually. I think he's earned that starting spot, but if we want to take it to the next level, we probably need a better goalkeeper. And as of now, I'm not seeing it. I don't know if like the young guys will be ready by 2026. We're what, like 2.5 years away, roughly. That's not a lot of time to develop a goalkeeper. Goalkeepers take a long time to mature.
Sure.
Zach Steffen has been played out. Ethan Horvath, dude, the guy's not even making the bench there. Gaga Sonina is so young, we don't know. So, yeah, Turner with that. But let me give you my stocks down. One is Brendan Aaronson, because it's just like he's been bad for club and country for like 12 months or more at this point. And I was still defending him being in the roster, still saying, okay, guys, we still keep him in the roster. It makes sense. But I will say this, with Weah and Pulisic back, I would actually drop Aaronson in the roster now. And I would even put Paredes ahead of him. I know Paredes is disappointing as well, but I don't think he's had, like Paredes at least is not in bad form for his club. He's like on the rise for his club, a bit younger too. Seems to have a higher ceiling. But I think Aaronson needs to be dropped from the roster, at least for a little bit. Not forever. I'm not saying forever. And see if he gets it going for his club, which he hasn't for like 2 seasons at this point. And then we'll reevaluate. But Aaronson's stock is like, I think everyone also agrees with this. It's just been terrible to watch at this point. And then the other player that I put stocks down is Luca de la Torre, because he had a terrible performance, very bad performance. And again, there are players that Tyler Adams will be back eventually. And he ain't, with these performances, he ain't challenging Tyler. Johnny's moving to Real Betis. And if Johnny's back from injury, the way Luca played, probably going to be behind Johnny. Definitely behind Musa. Definitely behind McKennie, definitely behind Gio Reyna in that midfield, and probably behind Malik Tillman as well. So when you look at that from that perspective, it almost feels like he is on the verge of a fully healthy roster of not making it, of being outside of that roster, Luca De La Torre. He didn't take advantage of this opportunity. He didn't even have an average game. He had a very poor game. So I think his stocks went down in that sense because there was a moment where you're like, no, Luca has to be in the roster. He's not a starter, but he's reliable being the roster, but hasn't been playing well for the United States as of late.
Let me ask you an interesting question, Tack. So if you were a center mid, would you rather play Ghana 11v11? Like if you were a central mid and you're like, all right, I have a chance, one game to make a lot of impact and move up in the roster. Am I standing on this roster, right? Would you rather be in that Johnny spot playing against Ghana with that roster around you? Or would you rather be in Luca's spot playing against this Trinidad Tobago team? Once again, you have to think about scenario, 10 men for, whatever, 2/3 of the game. I'm just interested in what your thoughts are.
But you know what's funny? I'll respond to that in a second. But last camp, I think Luca was one of my stock downs again. I thought last camp he was because he wasn't great. That's 2 camps in a row. I think playing at home against Ghana, a Ghana side that really didn't care, is probably better. Better scenario to be in. But there's no excuse for looking like one of our worst players against Trinidad. Trinidad's a weaker opponent, though. It's a weaker opponent.
Trinidad, weaker opponent. As a central mid, like you're going against USL guys. Even if you want to say Ghana didn't care, et cetera, you're going against like USL level players, Portuguese 4th tier. Like these are the kind of guys that Trinidad and Tobago.
Semi-pro players, semi-pro.
And to your point, it's not even that like Luca didn't stand out in the way that I actually thought Johnny stood out in that game, that Ghana game. He really was good. So you have to at least look like competent, right? You have to. You're I don't care if it's 10 men. And that's where Luca really failed. I agree with you. The Ghana game would be
the thing with Johnny is he needs to figure out he needs to stay healthy, man. Because out of these 3 camps that were crucial, he got injured, and these were camps without Tyler Adams, for example. So he would have gotten more minutes, and he didn't stay healthy. So sure, like you don't control injuries, but again, that's something he has to figure out. He has to try to stay healthy whatever way he can. I don't think he would have had major issues with the Trinidad and Tobago match because he's playing away in South America, which the conditions are equally as bad. Hostile environment. The environment wasn't even hostile yesterday. It wasn't really hostile.
No, it was like an empty stadium. It was like
an empty stadium. Yeah, there's that too. So I don't think Johnny would have had an issue with the field. He plays on really bad fields down there and does just fine. But again, I don't think Johnny took advantage of these opportunities because he got injured. And I know we're going to say, whoa, but that's not his fault. But again, being healthy, I guess, like it's a skill. I don't know. You have to be healthy. You have to show what you can do. And he wasn't able to do it because he's not healthy. Same thing with Tyler Adams. But I think Luca De La Torre is a stock down because I talked about this, I think, last video. When you look at the 6th position, it's mostly like Tyler, probably still the starter if he comes back the way he was. And Johnny's probably that backup right now. Or maybe a Musa can play there ahead of De La Torre. Then you look at the other central midfield position. It's the 8. That would be McKennie and Musa. Those are my 2, easily. And then you look at the 10 or the attacking midfield or the 8, the attacking 8, whatever way Berhalter utilizes them. It's Gio Reyna and Malik Tillman. So that tells me that if everyone's healthy with Luca De La Torre's performance, he gets pushed out of the roster right now if all of those players are healthy.
Yeah.
But that's my stock down. I was going to do a whole section where we talk about Berhalter, but I feel like we kind of covered Berhalter entirely in different ways, like what's good and what's bad about him. He was one of the positives. There was also lots of negatives. So I don't think we need to cover Berhalter in this video.
Let me say this, Tack, because I think I'm not sure I said it clear enough. I feel like you kind of did. So I think the positive that I'm seeing upon his return is he's trying new things. I think he's getting the rosters correct, in my opinion, mostly. I think he's getting the lineups mostly correct. I don't have a lot of disputes with the players he's putting out in lineups, the players he's bringing in on rosters. And that is growth. I mean, last camp, we all had a lot of concerns with some of the players he was consistently bringing in, who he would start, who he would sub in. It's more not like what he's doing, it's how he's doing it now, right? So last cycle was like what he's doing, right? Like the who and the what were like problematic. And how he was doing it. And now I'm just kind of left with like how he's doing what he's doing, when he's choosing to sub certain guys in, how he's choosing to, adjust our tactics, at certain times. But I like that he's
the leadership.
Right. And I like that he's trying new things, right? And I want to give legit compliments because we saw a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again last cycle with very little like experimentation. And I do think we need to experiment to become tactically flexible. And it looks like he's at least maybe on that journey where he's trying to find some different things that he can lean on other than just the 4-3-3. So I'm just going to say that because I said a lot of negatives about him on this episode, but those are two big positives that I've seen and that I appreciate.
Well, yes, the rosters have been fine. He's been picking the players that he should be picking. He's picking the best players. Maybe it's like one or two players like, oh, switch that. But that's just like nitpicking at this point. It's not like he's bringing Roldan Morris, Shaq Moore, Aaron Long, Acosta to the World Cup. So he moved on from that. The starting 11's pretty solid, I would say. I think playing Gio Central, another big positive.
Yep.
But we were talking about that, the personality of the team, the leadership seems off. It doesn't seem like this team has some fire in them. And the first excuse was they didn't have fire in them in the friendlies because they were friendlies. Well, guess what? The two matches against Trinidad were not friendlies. And there was a Copa America spot on the line, which thankfully they got the job done and we qualified. But those are matches you have to be fired up. And you have to beat the opponent and score a lot of goals on them, especially when it's a weaker opponent, like you said, semi-pro players.
He's yet, and this is the biggest negative, right? He's yet to get consistent performance out of this group of players over like a 5 or 6 game stretch at any point in his tenure, in my opinion. And I don't even mean 6 straight wins. That's not even what it's about, right? It's just like 6 straight games where at the end of the game, you're like, it was a good performance. We got unlucky and only won 1-0, but it was a good performance, right? Or, hey, it was a good performance against Germany. Maybe we lost 2-1, but it was a really good performance overall. And I just don't think that's true. Like, I think it's so varied. And I went back and was looking at the results going all the way back to the beginning of World Cup qualifying. And it's just like Jekyll and Hyde. And I think if we're being honest, this second tenure has just been a little bit more Jekyll and Hyde in terms of what he's able to get out of these players every game. The mindset, the actual soccer ability, right, and the tactics, it's inconsistent. And as if you've ever played sports, right, you know that the number one thing that matters is consistency. Just bring what you bring every single game. And maybe he is a really good coach, right? And maybe it's just the mesh of him and this team and these players. He just can't figure it out. But I haven't seen him figure that out yet. And you're just not going to make a run in a Copa or World Cup if you're inconsistent. You're just not. Like, you're going to get burned.
Which that's my issue with the Federation. If he can't figure out this group, let's say he's a good coach for a different group, they probably should have noticed that last cycle where he was struggling with the group of players. But to finalize the episode, and let's do it super quick because we're almost hitting an hour, Copa America. So we're qualified to the Copa America. We play next summer here in the United States. So thank goodness we'll play at home because clearly away, this guy can't win away. That's been made crystal clear. If we had to play Copa America down in South America, I would bet on us not getting out of our group. I'll put it that way. So Copa America, quickly, what you think should be accomplished, like let's say your bare minimum, or like, no, this I'll consider a successful Copa America, and then what you're actually expecting based on what you're seeing.
Yeah. So my expectations based on my expectations, right? Not based on the data and the stuff we've seen, is that, this team should make a run to the quarterfinals at the absolute worst. And then at that point in time, it would just depend on the matchup. As we know in knockout tourneys, if you're England, you get lucky every knockout tourney and you're able to roll the semis.
Yeah, we're not England. They get very lucky with that.
You have easy matchups. Yeah. But, you could be matched up against Brazil in the quarterfinal if, things go weird, right? Or maybe, a really good team finishes second in their group and you get matched up with them too early. Whatever it is, right? The wrong team's on your side.
I have a counter for that, though, but go on. I have a counter for that.
So, that's it. Like, it's a quarterfinal semi would be like a minimum expectation for me. And quarterfinals only if it's like, dang, we drew them in the quarters. Like, I get it. But like, we should be good enough. Our roster is strong enough. And we have a coach who should be implementing 6 years of soccer with the same group pretty much. I get that we moved some pieces in and out, but there is a massive core that have been with this guy for 6 years. You should be good enough at that point to beat everyone in South America with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 teams.
Yeah, I'll add it like this. So I believe we're going to be pot 1 as the host nation. We're going to be pot 1, which means we're not going to have Brazil, Argentina in our group. That's the first thing. Second thing is when you look at the at CONMEBOL right now, there are 3 teams that I look at and I say, if we lose to them, but as long as we make it scrappy and make it tough for them, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, these 3, I don't really have high expectations of us pulling a result. And if he does, it'll be something crazy. It'll be amazing. But I don't have, even playing at home, these 3, I don't have high expectations. But when you go past that, the ranking, and then you go towards Ecuador, Colombia, I think we are, in terms of like the players you have, it's like very close. I'll say Ecuador probably has, if we put all the player pool together, Ecuador has like the top 2 or 3 players, like Caicedo, Kendry Páez rising, Hincapié, Stupian. But the United States might be a bit more well-rounded. We're going to be playing at home, though. So there's no excuses there. Like if we play Colombia or Ecuador, Berhalter failing to get that win is a failure.
I agree.
I don't think we're like much better than Ecuador or Colombia. I think it's like very close, the rosters, close enough that playing at home, you need to pull that result. And then, of course, if it happens what you just said, we get out of our group in first. Let's say we get out in first, which would be amazing. And then, I don't know, Uruguay was in the same group as Brazil, and they end in second. We have to play Uruguay. I was like, and then we lose to Uruguay 2-1. It's like, okay, that can happen. Depending on how the game plays out, it's like, it can happen. Can't really blame anyone for it, depending on how it plays out. I would say semifinals has to be the goal because there are low odds that we'll play Brazil, Argentina, or Uruguay in the quarterfinals. The odds are low. So I'm going to say semifinals is what we need to get, which, again, for anyone who doesn't know, in the Copa America, it's like group stage, quarterfinals, not round of 16, quarterfinals. So we'd have to win 1 knockout round. If Berhalter can't do that at home, to me, it's a failure. And that is my expectation. Now, it's expectation from like what I think, like you said, based on what we're seeing on the data, I think Berhalter will lose to any of the top 5 teams in this tournament whenever we face them, which that includes Ecuador, Colombia, Uruguay, Brazil, and Argentina. Top 5, is that 5? Yes, 5. Any of these top 5 teams, I think the way we're playing under Berhalter, we will lose to them at home. Any of them, including Ecuador and Colombia, if it goes the way it is. Unfortunately. Now, if we play like Peru, Paraguay, or some of the CONCACAF nations, I expect us to win. I think Berhalter would pull a win against that. The tier 3 CONMEBOL teams and the CONCACAF teams. But if we play any of those top 5, the way we're going under Greg Berhalter, it's not going to look pretty. It just isn't.
Yeah, and I think like I really want you've been a proponent of this for a while now, and I have for certain. Like we need to just raise the expectations as a group. And I get that as fans, maybe we don't have that much impact. But I think just collectively, and I see a lot more fans who have raised the bar, which is really nice to see. But we just need to raise the bar. Like, okay, could we technically lose to Ecuador and Colombia in a knockout round? Sure. But like we should go in with the expectation of like, we have the same coach with the same core group for 6+ years. They're all coming by 2024. They're all going to be coming into their prime. They're no longer 21, right? Like these guys are going to be 25, 26, our core group, right? With some other young guys around them. The center backs might be Reem, right? It might be a 37-year-old vet. Like we are going to have a veteran group. We just are. And we're going to have a veteran coach who's been able to work with them and implement his system for how many years? And if our expectation isn't to beat Ecuador and Colombia, what are we doing here?
At home.
Like, what are we doing? Because 2 years later, we're going to be in a World Cup knockout, maybe against a similar level opponent in the round of 16. Like, the expectation has to be to beat that opponent and move to the quarterfinal in the World Cup. It has to be. Mm-hmm. And so it has to be to beat those level opponents next year in the Copa. And like you said, like, make the semi. Go up against an Argentina. Now, listen, if you roll over against Argentina, to me, that's just as bad as losing to Ecuador. If it's just like, we roll over and we get freight trained 4-1.
Make it tough. Make it tough for them.
That's just as bad because once again, we're gonna have to play Argentina in the quarters of the World Cup if that's the goal. Like we're gonna have to play a team of that quality.
Or earlier.
Exactly. But most likely, as pot 1 World Cup, the hope is you can win that group. The hope is you don't get a brutal round of 16. You get an Ecuador type matchup. You beat them, but then all bets are off once you get to the quarters, right? I mean. Unless you get super lucky, you're probably going to have to play a high-quality opponent. So let's raise the bar, everyone. Like, just raise the bar. Like, I get that we've been young for the last 4 years, and a lot of people's bars have been like, we're young. We're not young anymore. Let's go.
And just to wrap things up, like you said, I know we're fans and we don't really play a role what's on the field. And I don't know if the federation, the coaching staff, or the players really listen to anything we say. They probably don't. They make the decision based on what they do, and they probably should make the decision based on what they think. But I can assure everyone that they watch, they see what you post on Twitter. I can assure you that. I am 100% certain, not because I'm speculating. I just 100% know, talking to a few people, that they watch, they know.
For sure.
Do they care? Are they going to listen? Probably not. Probably not. And like I said, they probably shouldn't anyway. But keep being vocal because they see it. They see it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Drop a like before you go. Go follow Adam on Twitter and leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. All right. Bye-bye.